There were headlines popping up everywhere. I started to notice these headlines saying that trees are talking to each other. So I started to look into this, and I found the doctor. This is Dr. Tamir Klein, who is joining us in studio, who's been doing this research. Now, the headlines aren't exactly precise, but let's take a look. I went down to the Weizmann Institute in Rehovot, first of all, to see what they're doing down there, and then we'll hear from the good doctor.
Let's take a look.
There can be evaporation of gas within the water that flow, and it blocks the conduits that inside the tree. And then this is one of the main reasons that trees die from drought. Here we try to give the trees different treatments, and now we are giving them a drought treatment. And we want to see how the different treatments influence the way they deal with drought.
Have you found anything? Have you learned anything that we can apply yet?
They can endure very high levels, much higher than we thought originally, and they can still live. They can fix it, and they can deal with it.
So what am I holding? What is this?
This is a bonsai olive tree. Actually, my project is focused on transplantation of mature trees, meaning it's taking out the tree from its soil, the natural surrounding, with a root ball, and moving it on a truck to a different location and replant it there. And what you see here, it's olives, is a good example for a tree that have really resist for drought.
Here we have 5 different species, and we try to look or to understand if the trees can transfer carbon between them. There are several options how it can occur. So one is that the roots can connect between them, and the second one is a connection between the roots and the fungi. The trees share the carbon. So we want now to measure how much carbon is really shared here.
Let's bring into the conversation Dr. Tamir Klein with the Weizmann Institute. Thank you for being with us. The question of if you're sick and you have a disease, eventually the bacteria will build up a resistance towards. Right. Is it a similar kind of thing going on with climate change, that trees are aware of the changing environment, and how does the impact that has?
Well, unfortunately not. What we've shown here, which is the work in my lab, is very positive, and we show way forward with different examples. But the truth is, we have massive tree mortality happening in many forests worldwide. We have it in Israel. We've seen trees drying up. And that's not just because of direct pollution or anything like that. That's a cumulative effect of climate change. So let's make some understanding. First, the warming is global. That happens everywhere, up to 2 degrees by now, since the pollution started more than 100 years ago. The drying is specific to certain regions, like the Mediterranean, like Central America, for example. And on top of that, we have more extreme events happening, like more droughts, stronger winds. That's happening everywhere. And the Americans were actually, the American scientists at least, were the first to look at trees and to come to trees as saviors of the hour. Well, trees can grow better when they have higher CO2 in the atmosphere. But the research I participated in Basel, in Switzerland, showed the opposite. Actually, they don't do any better. They're not very much affected by the elevated CO2.
So what are the implications then, that the trees are not learning to adapt the way that perhaps originally thought?
Yeah, trees can adapt, and I want to show some of the examples that we've seen in the movie in a more details. But think about it. They have been adapting for millions of years, and now we're imposing on them an experiment that has never been done before. This is something that happens in dozen years, 20 years. That's much faster than trees can adapt, or any plant.
Are there some trees in particular that are really at risk of being exterminated completely under the current climate conditions? Here in the Middle East, let's say, some trees in Israel.
Yeah, sure. Many oak species are already dying. Not so far from Tel Aviv. We have pines that are more resistant, and according to some model simulations that we've ran, we kind of know already that in 50 years, the pine forest that we have around Beersheba or a bit north from Beersheba will probably no longer be able to withstand
and that's
the heat.
30, 40 years away.
Yes, yeah.
All right, I have to take a quick break. Thank you for being with us in studio, the work you're doing at the Weizmann Institute. Thank you, Daniel, for bringing Dr. Tamir in and bringing us this week's edition of Earth View.